There are more than 20 villages here designed to replicate combat conditions that the soldiers may experience. The U.S. Army tries to make these exercises as real as possible, from the languages spoken to the animals found in the villages of the Middle East. And that's where agriculture comes in. As This Week in Louisiana Agriculture's A.J. SABINE shows us, livestock can help keep soldiers alive.
It all starts with a song. And ends in chaos. This training exercise is part of the Joint Readiness Training Center at Fort Polk. What you see here will eventually save lives. Earlier, a viscous fog-filtered sunrise signaled the start of a new training day. Goats, geese, mules, and horses are bit players in the Army's JRTC training theater. These animals represent actual livestock owned by Iraqi or Afghani civilians. Longtime role player Herbert Peavy gets Strawberry ready for a little breakfast. Peavy is one of several animal caretakers who maintain livestock on Fort Polk. He says realistic training, including the use of these animals, make for better soldiers on the battlefield.
They think it's really real, and that's very important to get them in that frame of mind. It's super training for them. They'll know what to expect when they get to in-country. Good morning, Tig.
Meet Dennis and Seta. This is his ritual every morning for the last 14 years. He's in charge of feeding all of the animal role players. Animal health care is a big part of his responsibility. For the most part, in his opinion, these animals get better health care than many of the soldiers.
The post veterinarian comes up here and does a monthly inspection. The horses get a semi-annual physical, which the soldiers, I don't think, get one but every 3 years. They're all up to date on their vaccines, deworming. Like I say, they're taken care of daily.
Herbert and a few other role players ready a wagon for the day's training exercises. As role players, they want to keep it as authentic as possible. This includes Iraqi costumes, real mules, and killed in action cards. It may all look like fun, but Peavy knows the goal of all this make-believe is to bring every soldier home safely.
We take pride into our jobs, and all of us really get off into it to try to do our best to train them the best of our abilities. But each one of us as individuals, we do our best to train the troops so they can come back home.
Once the mules are harnessed, it's time to mount up and head out. You may be doing a double take. For a second there, it looks like a road in Fallujah. That's the whole point. You can't get this kind of realism with cardboard cutouts. Now, the goal of the situational training exercise is to replicate the combat environment that our soldiers face overseas, and that includes using actual livestock. Many times our soldiers in conflicts overseas have to deal with situations in which real livestock are involved. And by using these ghosts, this is just one way that agriculture is helping our soldiers win the fight against global terror. Welcome to the fictional town of Al-Qujar. On the surface, it appears to be a peaceful Iraqi village. Women in burqas tend to their yards. Goats graze and wander freely about the town. There are a couple of used cars around the village, while elders warm themselves around a fire. In the distance, a scuffle ensues. A familiar mule skinner and his buddy escort an army convoy into the village. Two Apache attack helicopters circle overhead. Iraqi civilians hawk fruit while the convoy makes its way to a checkpoint. Villagers flee as a simulated improvised explosive device detonates. In a split second, the village becomes a war zone. Members of the Pennsylvania National Guard try to figure out their next move. Near the explosion, soldiers try to help the wounded while keeping the mob at bay. Agriculture shapes the training of combat soldiers headed to Iraq and Afghanistan, says Captain Corey Angel, of the 56th Stryker Brigade Combat Team.
People get used to seeing animals and farmers interacting with animals. When we're overseas, that actually becomes a very important thing because that drives their economy overseas. If, say for instance, we had an issue where a farmer lost some livestock because someone had, maybe we were conducting our operations and it resulted in destruction of livestock, we take that very seriously, and our civil affairs people would go out and interact with them and link them in with our judge advocate general who can help them through the claims process and get them reimbursed.
Get behind the tree!
Guardsmen are swept into a firefight. 2 more soldiers move in to assist. Another 2 stand at the ready, weapons raised. As the scene clears, the convoy moves on. For these goats, the show is over. This day's training may be at an end, but Louisiana Agriculture and the Joint Readiness Training Center at Fort Polk are working tirelessly to make sure that a soldier's worst day is here in training and not on the battlefield. For This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, I'm A.J. Sabine.
Aside from the many animals, there are more than 1,000 people who take part in the role-playing operations.